In this project, we're going to explore media queries. You should download the media queries zip file, which has the start of the project for you to work with. If you want to take a look at it before we begin, we have the beginnings of responsive design. I put two H1 tags in here that are sitting side by side. And when I get down to a certain point, it reflows. So we have it set up for large screens and small screens. We could have multiple breakpoints. We're just doing two right now. Let's take a look at how they work. So you're going to look at the W3 Schools CSS responsive design tutorial. You probably want to read through that before you watch this video. So don't worry, pause me. I'll wait. You can come back. So hopefully you've read through this in depth, but I'm going to go over it quickly and then I'm going to show you how to apply it to the project. So we're going to do a very simple breakdown. Now, typically you'll do phone, tablet, desktop. We're just going to do desktop and phone, very basic responsive design. The viewport is automatically set when we do that exclamation point tab. That puts in line 6 here. That sets our viewport, and that changes the width to equal the device width, and then sets the initial scale of the web page. And we've been doing that the whole way through. That helps it look right on phones. But we're going to actually make it respond so it changes depending on if we are looking at a phone or a full desktop. Again, we can add additional breakpoints. We'll do that in some upcoming exercises. But for right now, we're just going to have the one breakpoint. To do this, we need to use a grid. Responsive design is based on using rows and columns. And we use a 12-column grid. So let's take a look at how this works. So this is just a basic response because these columns are set up to a percentage, so they will grow and shrink. It's just like we do responsive images. We can add breakpoints so that we can have different, with the media query, it will detect how wide the screen is. So we can take a look at that. And as I change the width of the screen, you can see the result size here. When it gets below 600 pixels, it changes the background. What we want to do is we want to change the layout. So we're going to go this far. We're going to add a breakpoint so we have a different layout for the phone or the desktop. And I have copied, if you go into here, you need not just that, you need the box sizing, border box is critical. The row after, which is resetting everything after each row, is critical. And then we need to have the desktop and the phone options. So now we can take a look at it here. And you can see the layout changes. You've seen it on my sample. We've got this where the media queries and responsive design are on the same line till it gets down to being set up for phone. Then they're one on top of each other. And so that's where we have that sample. Let's take a look at it. Now we should do some additional styling or be aware of it. I've done the image sizing at a maximum width of 90%. So be aware that my images are already responsive because they're sent up at percentages. We've been doing that for a while. But you'll see that they will size down if they need to. So I've created a row here in the header section that has two 6 columns. So when we're working with the columns, they need to add up to 12 or a multiple of 12. So we could do 12, we could do 24, because we could assign different values. But here we're just going to use columns with 12, and then it's going to reset based on if we get to the phone level. So one of the things that we want to do is have the buttons in our nav bar appropriately spaced. So I'm going to add a class of row to the nav bar. And I'm going to put in several divs. And so I want to make it, the divs are going to have classes. And so I've got 5 here, 12 columns. So each one of these, I want to have 2 columns with an empty column on either side. That'll use all 12 columns. So if I want to put in a 1 column, first I have to be in a row, which I am. And then I'm going to I don't like that. That should be dark purple. Sorry, ADD. Better. Okay, so I've got my different column options here. So I want to add a single column. So it would be dot col1. That gives me a class with a column 1. I'm leaving it empty. I'm going to copy that row. And I'm going to paste it down here. And then I'm going to add dot col2, and I'm going to multiply it by 5. And then I can put my list items. And I actually didn't need to do this as a list, but it's okay. Oops. That should, well, undo, undo, undo. I should have started in the second one. So Control X, Control V. And so I have saved that. And I'm going to bring this out here, and I'm going to refresh it. Oh, that's interesting. What did I do? Ah, that should be on the line below it because the text is right here. So I need to make sure that I have closed everything. So I've got my nav, got my nav bar. So it's not really happy with that being there. So we'll remove that. We'll put a dot row here. Close it here. Oops, this needs to be inside that. It was the way I nested things, I believe, on how I closed that. So let's save this. And we'll take another look. There we go. That fixed that. Now, you can see that the buttons get further apart. Now, this is not necessarily good design, we probably want these to have the buttons go all the way wide. So we need to look at that. And so that's our so we're going to copy those, just that, and then when it's in this class here for mobile phones, we can actually just change that background color. Let's take a look and see what that does. Ooh, ooh, don't like that. We won't do that. But we could work on changing those so that we, instead of doing the buttons, we could have each column width have a name. I'm not going to play with that right now. We could absolutely make that better. And what's going to happen is we're actually going to be using pre-done navigation inside of Bootstrap, which will handle that for us. Let's go ahead and test that again. But you know, that's the thing about web design is that you can do something, try it, and if it doesn't work, undo, go back. You don't want to stress over it. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at this text, text and image, images layout. We want to add some columns to those. I'm going to do the first div here, and I'm going to make it class equals row, and then I'm going to look at, let's look at this. It goes through I want to see where the div ends. So I've got my row, and I've got, I can follow this line all the way down. And so it ends here. I want to break this up and put it as a, we've done a 50-50 column. I want to do it as a 8 and 4. And you can play with this. So I'm going to add a dot COL 8. And I want to take that and we're going to play with where it ends. I want to end it after the paragraphs. And prettier is not working. There we go. Okay, and then we're going to have to add another one here where we've got dot COL. And we will grab the other break point and put it here below the ordered list. And then save and test. That's not bad. I probably want to add a couple blank lines or a margin to the top here because I'd like it level with the paragraph. So on the for desktop here, we can add a UL margin top 30 px. And so that should only take place when I'm in that full view and it's not far enough. So change and test. And you really do want to test it like this where you're changing it a bit at a time. There we go. Now when I have it stacking on top of itself, that should go away and it's not as big. So I want you to work at realigning the text and image and the images divs. So text and image, you want to split it so that the image is in a column and this top text is in another, or go to 3 columns. And for the images, you want to split those into 2 columns, either even or uneven. But I want you to finish making this page responsive and then save it, upload it, and hand in the link.